You open your trading app and decide to buy a stock. You tap the buy button. A few seconds later, the shares appear in your account. Done. But what actually happened during those few seconds? Who sold you those shares? Did your money go directly to the company? Or did it go to someone else? And how did ownership move from one person to another so quickly? Most investors never think about what happens behind the scenes. Yet every stock purchase triggers a fascinating process involving buyers, sellers, stock exchanges, and digital records. So the next time you press buy, what is really happening? Let's follow the journey of a stock trade and uncover the hidden system behind it. Before we understand a stock trade, we need to understand one simple idea. A stock is not just a number on a screen. It's a tiny piece of ownership in a company. Imagine a company is divided into thousands or even millions of small pieces called shares. When you buy one of those shares, you become a part owner of that company. It may be a very small piece, but it's still ownership. If the company grows and becomes more valuable, your share can become more valuable too. But this raises an interesting question. If you now own a small piece of the company, who gave that piece to you in the first place? To answer that, we need to meet the other side of every stock trade. Here's something many new investors don't realize. Every stock trade needs two people, a buyer and a seller. If you want to buy a stock, someone else must be willing to sell it. Think of it like buying a used car. You can't buy one unless someone else is ready to give it up. The stock market works the same way. When you place a buy order, you're saying, I want to own these shares. At the same time, another investor may be thinking, I want to sell my shares. A trade only happens when a buyer and a seller come together. But here's the interesting part. These two people usually don't know each other. So how do they find one another and complete the trade in seconds? That's where the stock exchange comes in. Imagine millions of investors across the country trying to buy and sell stocks at the same time. How do they find the right person to trade with? The answer is the stock exchange. Think of it as a giant digital marketplace where buyers and sellers meet. When you place a buy order through your trading app, it is sent to the stock exchange. At the same time, thousands of sell orders from other investors are already waiting there. The exchange continuously compares these orders and looks for matching prices. The moment it finds a suitable buyer and seller, the trade can happen. But how does the exchange decide which orders match first? That's where the matching process becomes really interesting. So how does the stock exchange actually match buyers and sellers? Let's say you want to buy a stock for 100 rupees per share. At the same time, another investor is willing to sell that stock for 100 rupees. The stock exchange sees that the prices match and instantly connects the two orders. The trade is executed within seconds. If the prices don't match, the orders simply wait until a suitable buyer or seller appears. This entire process is handled automatically by powerful computer systems. No human is manually approving each trade. Millions of orders are matched every day in a fraction of a second. But now comes the most surprising part of the story. Once the trade happens, where does your money actually go? Here's a question that surprises many new investors. When you buy a stock, where does your money actually go? Most people assume it goes directly to the company. But in most cases, that's not what happens. Imagine you're buying shares of a company from the stock market. Those shares are usually being sold by another investor who already owns them. So when the trade happens, your money goes to that seller, not to the company itself. In return, the shares are transferred to your account. It's simply an exchange. Money moves from the buyer to the seller, and ownership moves from the seller to the buyer. But if the company doesn't receive the money, then how do companies raise money from investors in the first place? If your money usually goes to another investor, then how do companies raise money from the stock market? The answer is through an IPO, or initial public offering. This is when a company sells shares to the public for the first time. During an IPO, investors buy shares directly from the company, so the money goes to the company itself. The company can then use that money to grow its business. But once the IPO is over, those shares start trading on the stock exchange. From that point on, investors mostly buy and sell shares among themselves. So companies raise money during the IPO, while regular stock market trades usually happen between investors. Once the trade is matched, something important happens. Ownership changes hands. Before the trade, the seller owned the shares. After the trade, you become the new owner. The seller receives the money, and the shares are transferred to your Demat account. Think of a Demat account as a digital locker that stores your shares electronically. You don't receive any paper certificates. Everything is updated digitally behind the scenes. Within a short time, your account reflects the new shares you own. At that point, you officially become a shareholder of the company. But even though the trade is complete, one final step still remains before the entire process is finished. Even after the trade is executed, there's still some work happening behind the scenes. The stock exchange now needs to make sure that the money reaches the seller and the shares reach the buyer. This process is called settlement. Think of it as the final handover. The system verifies the trade, transfers the money, and updates the ownership records. Once everything is confirmed, the shares are credited to your Demat account and the seller receives the payment. It all happens electronically and usually without you noticing. To most investors, it feels instant. But behind the scenes, a highly organized system is working to ensure that every trade is completed accurately and securely. So, what really happens when you buy a stock? First, you place a buy order. The stock exchange then finds a matching seller. Your money goes to that seller, and the shares are transferred to your Demat account. In just a few seconds, ownership changes hands. The surprising part is that you're usually not buying shares from the company itself. You're buying them from another investor through the stock exchange. What looks like a simple tap on your phone is actually a highly efficient system connecting millions of buyers and sellers every day. And the next time you press the buy button, you'll know exactly what's happening behind the scenes and where your money actually goes. There's always more to discover. Like, share, and subscribe to Beyond Basics for more fascinating videos made simple.